the city, it's a lot of pavement, it's a lot of flat, obsessing about splits and pace and cadence and heart rate, whereas when you come into nature and trails, you're kind of just running with yourself.
Chicago, for the most part, is pretty accessible by public transportation, but it's also super cheap to run.
Welcome to 10 Junk Miles. This is a podcast for everyday runners, by everyday runners, about stuff that interests everyday runners.
Honestly, the trail system here is incredible. It's the closest thing we've got to the city, and there's some really great single track here.
Today we're running over in Bullfrog Lake. I find it's, in my opinion, one of the best areas in Chicago to run, just outside the city. You're able to get maybe about 800 feet in about 8 miles of running, so it's pretty good for Chicago.
In Chicago, you have just lots of flat. It's, you know, some days that's great, not having to fight any hills or elevation. Running on the lakefront is pretty scenic, honestly, with the lake right there and the city, the skyline, but nothing really compares to the trails. I mean, here you can't beat this nature. It's really easy to get in 2-3 hours here in the trails and not even realize it.
You can get some pretty good hill climbs and stuff like that where it will push your paces and make it a little bit more difficult for motion. There are some places that with the rains coming in, it will create small little rivers along the trail, which are really pretty to watch. I got into running completely by accident. When I was younger, I actually used to fake sick for the mile because I thought a mile was really far, and if you're from Chicago, driving a mile does take a really long time because of traffic. So I assumed it was really difficult.
Growing up, I was always a soccer player, but not good enough to make the team in high school, and so brought my skills over to track and cross country and immediately fell in love. And so ran throughout high school and then college as well. It kind of became, you know, a lifestyle. Waking up every day, getting in those morning runs, following that with an evening double. Living and training with a team in college really kind of solidified that passion. When I graduated college, I kind of, you know, burned out a little and took some time off running, and then jumping into the workforce, you know, didn't really have time, didn't have that structured, you know, 4:15 p.m. practice every day. 20, 30 pounds later, kind of got the itch again to start running, and really the switch for me, honestly, was finding some local trails. I remember taking my dog for a walk and thinking, hey, this could be really fun to just run through. There's something special about running down some single track, you know, whizzing by trees, and it's not like, you know, just the sidewalks and roads of Chicago. And kind of falling in love with those trails, I was able to really find that passion for running again.
I'd say one of the greatest things, just as far as being more what I would call myself as an adventure athlete, because I think if you ask like a lot of people who do running, there's so much more than you do besides just running, but it's an easy like staple to start off with. I started off in running, but then as a way of getting to work also, I started bike commuting, but I think any obsessive personality kind of starts obsessing over more things inside that dimension. So I started getting into like bike racing and pushing fast paces with friends on bikes. Chicago, for the most part, is pretty accessible by public transportation, but it's also super cheap to run, just place to place, and it keeps you in shape. The 606 trail is located Going from Logan to Bucktown, basically every street will have a ramp and you can get off at any point, so it is an elevated platform to run across.
The 606 honestly is great. It's just a long stretch, totally straight, lighted, so great for night running.
You see a ton of bikes there, you know, there's some runners, there's some walkers, but I'd say a majority of the people, traffic-wise, are people with speakers and fixed gear bikes. Then just on an outdoor platform, I guess you just meet other people in the outdoor space. So I've been rock climbing for quite a few years as well, and that's like another thing I really enjoy. I think of it as kind of like meditative yoga almost, but on like a vertical position. So I'm able to get up on the wall and just really feel something on the upper body, which running and biking don't always give you. You just never know where these things will take you, but it's all about trying to get to places as fast as possible by any means possible, whether it's climbing to the top of the mountain, getting to the end of the trail to experience the whole thing, or just biking to get yourself to work. I think being, you know, self-propelled is the coolest part of it all. Usually every morning I start off with just making my coffee. I call this drink the double darkness. Basically you get the Bialetti firing, you get it fully extracted from the base, then you pour it over an AeroPress into a cup. So the more you stir it, the stronger the cup gets, just kind of like think of it as a coffee particle reactor. And then press it. Now we know it's good. It's 2 dark roasts. So I have one from Intelligentsia, then I have another roast from a local place called Everybody's Coffee. I pour those both together, and there you have it. Double darkness. Perfect. So yeah, I mean, obviously it's not a HOKA bike, but I just got some cool stickers, so I'll throw those on there. Feeling like a true hipster in Bucktown. I got the clipless pedals, and then I also have no brakes or anything. Got like a couple scars and stuff to show from it, just from some nice falls, but it's usually the way most of us get around the city. So living here, it's really awesome because the 606 is really local. This area is what's known as Bucktown, and if you go right down here to Damon, you take Damon all the way down, maybe about a quarter mile to a half a mile, you'll run right to the 606 and have just, you know, a few miles of trail that's totally interrupted from the city. But yeah, this seems to be my favorite place in the morning, just to get out and have breakfast at, do my morning yoga ritual, and yeah, what can you say? It's just a great place to start your day. We just recently started picking up gardening, so we're still kind of catching on to it. The basil's looking pretty good, so the rest of this, but the rains haven't been so heavy, so we've had to really water these things lately. So after breakfast, I'm gonna go meet Sam. We're gonna go hit the 606. We're gonna push some hard paces and get this run done and over with, and just enjoy the weather that we have today. Pretty scenic through the whole area before you get there as well. Just a lot of fun side streets and some really, really pretty buildings. Yeah, this place has been here for a while and super local to the path.
So what do you recommend here?
One of my personal favorites is the Mocha Maya. It's cayenne pepper with a little bit of hot chocolate, topped with espresso and latte on top of that.
I might get the Mocha Maya.
I'm getting Mocha Maya. Yeah, that's my favorite. Maybe 5 years ago or so, this place opened up. And it's turned out to be a really awesome success. So I'll have everything from music to like theater performances to art gallery showings. As you get to the coffee counter, if you go further back by about 30 feet, there's these double doors. You open up these double doors, there's a giant stage, there's projectors. So it's a really cool space, and then at the same time you get a great cup of coffee. They have some great pastries, so it's just turned out to be really awesome.
And that's some really unique coffee concoctions.
Yeah, they get creative and just have fun with it.
And like on a typical weekend, like what's a couple favorite spots or areas you like to go out in?
Improv is really great. There's tons of shows. IO, Second City. There's tons of theaters. The Vic. We got the Met. The music scene here is incredible.
You can go to Wrigleyville if you just feel like, going out for like your standard typical bar experience, I would say. So like, the Cubs play, and whether win or lose, people are just getting a little crazy till like 2 or 3 in the morning. High fives all down the street. That's what that whole area is about.
Were you guys in town when the Cubs won?
Yes.
Did you like go?
And you're still
out
alive.
I know.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty peaceful though. Like, I definitely expected it to be a lot more dangerous, and in the end it was pretty innocuous.
Yeah,
so.
and then the parade the next day was like the largest congregation of humans ever. That was pretty cool.
Ferris Bueller's out there singing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The whole uptown area was considered to be the prized piece of Chicago. If you came here back in the early 1900s, during that phase, Al Capone was near and by this area, and there's a ton of tunnels actually underneath of where he used to bootleg alcohol. And actually there's maybe 3 or 4 places nearby that were his places of residence at the time before he dropped to Florida.
And you said you grew up right over there, right?
Actually, yeah. So my house is directly across the street from here where I grew up. I actually moved out of here before this awesome coffee shop appeared, but this would have been prime.
Yeah, seriously.
We're not far from the Lakefront Trail, right? I mean, do you guys? How far are we?
Yeah. I'd say so. We're right by the Wilson and Sheridan intersection. If you go east from here, we're maybe about half a mile from the lake, I'd say at this point. So if you continue down here, you'll end up at the track, the Lakefront Trail as well. There's a hill. It's not really that big of a hill, but you can do repeats and try to get some elevation variance because this place is flat as a board.
Everything around here is a hill.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I think the first time we kind of ran together, we did meet here at Everybody's Coffee, and it's straight down Wilson. The Lakefront path, there's nothing like it. Running with people, we get to like secretly like race whoever's on there, and
they don't know it.
They don't know it,
You're
but
racing.
we're gonna beat them.
This is my first time in Chicago, and I like researching the city. I heard a lot of people saying they were going to the beach, which I thought was very strange since we're in the middle of the country.
So they grabbed sand from the Indiana dunes, brought it into Chicago, and laid the sand out on there for, that luxury experience. And there's many of them in Chicago. We're next to Montrose Beach, which in my opinion is probably one of the more fun beaches to be around, just hosts a variety of things to do. You can go paddleboarding and kayaking even, and there's a beach bar, so it's pretty sweet. Just to maintain form, I'll kick off my shoes and run around the track, and sometimes I'll just run barefoot on the beach, just do some repeats there. And
nice.
You can catch a lot of guys even doing like open water swims for triathlon training. So it's a pretty like diverse workout regimen that many people have here just to keep things new in a flat city.
Hey, Ultrarunners, it's time to run 10 junk miles together.
10 junk miles.
10 junk miles. Junk miles.
Hey everybody, welcome to 10 Junk Miles. This is a podcast for everyday runners, by everyday runners, about stuff that interests everyday runners. And today we're doing something really weird. We're like at the Montrose Harbor in Chicago, recording a show in connection with it's a HOKA Trails program. I'm Scott Kummer. Special guests, I have Saxon Harrar and Sam Welch.
My name's Scott Kummer, and I'm originally from Wisconsin, but I live in Chicago, Illinois. I'm an ultrarunner and one of the founders of the Flatlander Ultrarunners in Chicago Ultrarunning Club, and also the founder of the 10 Junk Miles podcast. The Flatlander Runner Group kind of grew out of a need just to have a way to connect people to meet on the trails and run. And so we founded the group in a non-professional way as just kind of a grassroots Facebook group with no rules, no money, no dues, no organization. It's just basically a group that's owned by the runners, for the runners, solely for the purpose of us getting together. In fact, we even have rules that it can't make any money because we just wanted nothing commercial, just a community-orientated group. And oftentimes it's like 20, 30, 40 people show up for a group run all over the Chicagoland area and even all over northern Illinois. And I just want to say quickly for the listeners, basically what they're doing is they're showcasing our home turf, Bullfrog Lake. It's where we run, it's where we live, it's the trails that we clean. And we thought, well, let's have them come over and do a little podcasting. So are you still working at Fleet Feet?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Yep.
And at which store are you at?
I'm at the Lincoln Square store.
For all the listeners that listen to this show that live in the city, you know, what sorts of activities are going on at Fleet Feet and in what locations during the week so that they can go and check them out and participate, because it is really the way that I got into running.
Yeah, like for the originator, I think it was just, you know, the fun run series was really awesome. It has free fun runs, and, you know, you could run with like 20, 30 people and usually find a good pace group.
So they still have the fun runs at all the stores?
They do. Every single store does. Certain ones will have specialized ones. We're doing one coming up here on Sunday out of the Southport location. It starts at 10 a.m. But this time we're doing something called Hokas and Mimosas. So we're...
This sounds good.
What can go wrong, you know?
We are about to go on our weekly Sunday fun run. What we're going to be doing is going down Addison, right past Wrigley Field, home of the 2016 World Series champions Cubs. And then we're going to be running down to Lake Michigan, and then we're going to be coming back to the store through Boys Town. So today is Hokas and Mimosas. Everybody who comes in can try on the new Clifton 4, and then we'll have mimosas for all the runners to enjoy after the run. Nice little refreshing treats.
I think there's a pretty steep learning curve in ultrarunning, and I think it's like a very humbling sport. If you talk to a lot of people in the sport, I don't think they brag about it very heavily, because I think a lot of far distances are faced with a lot of failures. You're not always going to be able to complete what you set your mind to, but you can always try and push yourself. So as long as there's a challenge, I think that's what really matters, and just trying to enjoy the challenge in a really high, wholehearted level.
Since taking that break off running and, you know, restarting, you know, training and everything, it's pretty incredible how running, because I want to, because I have that passion and drive, I've been able to start running faster and further than I ever have. Last year, I was able to PR a 5K, half marathon. I even jumped into my first Ironman, which was an adventure. It was a long day. Yeah, this year I'm setting my sights on some longer trail races, looking to do a 50K and hopefully a 50-miler by the end of the year.
This is a radioactive dumping spot. There used to be a service road that led out here, but this is basically a huge rock ton. You do not dig in this area, because below us is a bunch of radioactive waste. I'd say like most of the time city running, I'm listening to music, so it's just a way of like keeping things progressive and enjoying the run just by mixing that up. But I really enjoy the trails for the idea that sometimes you just keep the watch off your arm, just go out, because there's no real way to gauge your efforts besides just what it feels like.
Running in the city, it's a lot of pavement, it's a lot of flat, obsessing about splits and pace and cadence and heart rate, whereas when you come into nature and trails, you kind of just, it's a lot more mental. You're kind of just running with yourself. You have, you know, the birds and trees and everything, but it's just a really peaceful experience, really grounding.